Okay, my friends, just pay attention to this. I'm only going to go a second or two into
Talk
this.
about what's happening in the realm of higher education, and this is
Absolutely.
fascinating, right? 16 of the country's biggest and most prestigious schools, universities I know you know, are being hit with a big lawsuit over how they work together to figure out financial aid for students. Take a look at some of the schools mentioned: Yale, Brown, Penn, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Georgetown, Notre Dame. The list goes on. You need an SAT score of like 7,000 to get into any of these schools, right? But now you've got 5 former students bringing this suit who say that these universities are giving priority to kids of wealthy donors. And
All right, that's all we have to go. What they're doing is they want to keep it within the family, and they want to keep financial aid limited so that the kids of poor people cannot get in, and they give priority to the people that give them endowments and give them a bunch of cash, and they say, oh, we're going to give you a bunch of money to fund your university, but guess what? My kid needs an education. He needs a piece of paper. So no problem. Otherwise, right now, the evidence that I am going to show you shows that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is their financial dealings, which is one part of the disaster that education has become. The other part is it's not education, it's indoctrination. It's menticide. It's follow what we tell you or we destroy you. We'll keep your money, we'll not give you the piece of paper, or the piece of paper say you're an idiot. So do what we tell you to, pay us a ton of money, or go work in the fields. Okay, so we know they're being sued. Now here's Yale. Who's the one? They're the one I'm going to focus in on because they're the one right down the street from me, and they're the one that refused to do their job. Yale's financial aid. This is an email from Yale University spokesperson Karen Pearl wrote, Yale's financial aid policy 100% compliant with all applicable laws. Case closed. See you later. Have a nice day. Well, let's see if they comply with these other laws about fraud and about fiduciary obligations. Don't forget, this is not me talking. This is the University of Chicago investigating academic fraud, defining academic fraud. There's all kinds of stuff. We're fabricating data, misrepresentation, stealing other people, theft of ideas. This is the one that gets me. Selective suppression by Derek Briggs of unwanted or unacceptable results. Absolute total refusal to examine after I approached him and he responded, and this is his background. Okay, I think this will explain why I am so upset at Yale. This was a response back 7 years ago. Dear Mr. Spur, thank you for your emails of today and the attached materials. My apologies that some of your emails, dozens, have gone unanswered, but I know that you have received responses from my colleague, Armand Morgan. Hello, Armand. We've talked a lot, and Armand will remember me quite well. This is from Derek. Again, I have watched the videos on your website, considered your results once again. Unfortunately, it remains my view, his opinion, that these are not fossils but rocks that are similar in appearance to various anatomical features. Unfortunately, human DNA, as in my report, is everywhere, and any specimen has been handled will yield gene sequences of bacteria and humans. Listen to this. Oh, however, I am not an expert on human anatomy or vertebrate paleontology. Listen to this. One strategy might be to find a geologist familiar with the rocks in your area who could comment on your specimens. Perhaps there's someone in the Connecticut Geological Survey. I wish you the best of luck collecting and research. Derek Briggs, Yale University, New Haven, Connecticut. That's his response to what I am about to show you. Yeah, I mean, I have dozens and dozens of emails to him. I said, academic fraud is quite serious. All right, you should have done your job. Somewhere along the line, there should be a class action lawsuit. And all this is fiduciary failure in education. I had the Mudfossils for evaluation. Perfect preservation is what he's supposed to be skilled in. See this? This is Derek Briggs right here. I talked to him several times. I talked to him a couple times, right in the very early beginning. And the first words out of his mouth was, "What are you, a creationist?" Because I found giant human fossils. And I'm going to show it to you. And here's his MO. This is his bio. My primary research is in the preservation and evolutionary significance exceptionally preserved fossil biotas. This involves a range of approaches from experimental work on factors controlling the decay, fossilization through studies of early diagnetic mineralization, organic preservation. The field work on a range of extraordinary fossils occurs and their taxonomic description and analysis. I am 20 minutes from Yale. He wants me to go find somebody in the area that might be able to look at it. How can you possibly give any credence to anything that this guy would say? This is a disgrace, absolute disgrace. And I told Armand that. I said, when you're done, you will be the biggest disgrace on the planet. And he said, well, we won't be the only ones. And I said, that's correct, Armand. Remember that, Armand, my friend? Okay, I sent emails to virtually everybody at Yale, all the way up to the president, and for years and years. I mean, I'm talking about, this goes back over 10 years. And finally I sent to Derek Briggs, I says, I'm about to present extremely critically, possibly legal issues about your refusal to do your fiduciary duty for over 10 years, almost 10 years. It's way over 10 years now. This was, well, it's 11 years now. Anyway. If you do not contact me today before noon, I'll proceed and the outcome will not be pretty. I can be respectful. After 10 years, I no longer tolerate your intransigence. Contact me now or you and Yale will likely be sued in a class action. These kids are going to do this class action, thank God. I will contact news agencies on the tails of the disgraceful other policies you have at Yale. And this was the one about the 16 Ivy Leagues suing them. My specimens you refuse to examine are and were at that time DNA validated, CAT scanned, anatomist, chemistry, DNA reports. These are some examples, and I sent all the stuff. I will be uploading the mock trial today, and you will be named, as will Yale. For your information, I have lawyers that want to sue you. I got this from one a while ago, and this talks about how to proceed with the lawsuit and who to contact, and it's all kinds of stuff about it. You know, I just like, I'm an ant. I'm an ant. I can't do this. I'm hoping these kids can come up with this. This is the lawsuit. 16 Ivy Leagues being sued. All right, and this is my Google Drive from, I had it online. These are all my DNA reports. This goes back to 2015. I had all this done at the request of Yale that said they wouldn't even examine it unless I did all this stuff. I did it, and they still refuse. I see that. The only way I can see that is fiduciary failure to act in the best interest of the students, first of all, because they're telling them stuff that is shown it's not true. And the other thing is, it looks to me like it's academic fraud. The suppression of this evidence, and this is very valid, excellent quality DNA. I drilled deep inside. I didn't scrape it off the surface. This is what Derek Briggs cannot possibly be as incompetent as he portrays himself as being, as arrogant as he portrays himself as being. Go find somebody that knows about rocks. This is what I get from one of our top scientists whose bio says that that's what he's supposed to do. Primary research, preservation, evolution, exceptionally preserved fossils. You want to see some exceptionally? I'll show you some. And they are DNA proven, CAT scanned, the whole 9 yards. All right, this is a lung that's on that DNA test. It's flat as a pancake on one side because there was a great flood here, just as it was recorded in the Bible and all the ancient texts. This is what really upsets them because this destroys everything that they have indoctrinated into the students. They are about to be exposed and they are furious about it. And I am furious about their refusal to do their job. And it's time for them to pay the piper. This is a fossil lung blood came out of it. This is a fossil lung. I drilled inside of here, deep inside, to take the specimens. It didn't come off the surface, and it was virtually like blood, literally like blood. And I can prove that I can get blood out of them. This is blood right here. That's blood. Those are bubbles of blood. And all my mud fossils I can get blood out of. If they don't have anybody at Yale that can understand what a scab looks like and blood looks like from a bone, or what a bone looks like, they're supposed to have all this expertise down there. There's no expertise there at all I can find. None. Zero. Zero. If they won't even look at what this is, and is absolutely undeniable, how could you possibly trust a word from that university? Could you believe that they could possibly deny what I am showing? Just outright say we don't want to look at it because it can't possibly be true? Well, that's what I've been fed up with for 10 freaking years. And now it's time to stop this crap. That is a hand. It's almost 4 feet wide. This is the pad that goes around your hand. You lay your left hand open. This is where the thumb goes off this side. That's the cleave right in there between your hand, your two pads of your hand. That runs down to the small finger. That's this bumper pad here. This is a tendon that runs down to your fingers. This silvery stuff is grip skin. It coats it's a real thick, they call it friction skin, grip skin. That's what this is. This was DNA tested, human. I have animals. That's a goose, and that's actually his feathers. And again, flat on one side, because they died in a flood. And the nucleophilic substitution and invasion causes collagens to convert into aluminum silicates, which are feldspar. Feldspar is the coating, and inside is the basalt, limestone, all of that stuff. That is a goose, or some kind of fowl. I would say a waterfowl. It looks to me like a goose. I call him Caesar Augustus. Now, that is some kind of new species of foot that has the toes built in. We have numerous numbers of these. And that right there is where the tibia comes down, the big bone. The fibula sits on the side. It's only locked in by 3 tendons, or ligaments. And the toes are built inside. Blood's in there the whole night. This can be DNA tested too. I'm done doing all this stuff because nobody will listen. That's a fingertip. It's 3 feet long from here to there. Now take your time and don't do like Derek Briggs, just dismiss it out of hand because he's scared that he's going to be revealed as being as incompetent as he is. It's unbelievable. This is the fingernail. You go, oh, Roger, come on. I said, okay, well, let's look a little deeper. I say that's the fingernail. I say that's the pad that goes to your next finger, your next bone, so they don't bump into each other and scrub. There's a little pad between them. These are the vein and artery. Now, this piece right here, I had to break off of there because this is, you can't get blood from the grip skin or from the out coating of fingers and so forth. It's just too, the thickness of the skin is almost like a rubber bag, and I'll show you that in a second. So here is the top, which is the fingernail. If this was in this good a condition, you'd expect maybe even the fingerprints would be there. And guess what, my friends? Here is the fingerprints. Those are sweat pores. You see them up in here? This is the fingerprint ridge, just like we have in our fingers. The fingernail was up here. I smacked this with a hammer, it just popped right off. Because it's just like this. It's just exactly like this. And almost like Velcroed to the really fleshy part, which is saturated with blood. So not only we have the fingernail, we have the fingerprints. And guess what else we had? We had this head. And this was also tried to be presented to Yale. They refused. They said, oh, you'd have to do this, you'd have to do that. I said, well, what would we have to do? You'd have to have a CAT scan. I said, well, where would you like us to have a CAT scan? He said, well, we use the University of Texas in Austin. So I said, well, that's what we'll do. They gave me such a hard time, but eventually we forced them to do it, and from then on it was absolute nightmare. We almost went to lawyers and police and everything. This nose is splayed out. Somebody stepped on it or pushed the flesh off of the cartilage of the nose. This is, they say, oh, that's just ferrous oxides. Well, what do you think is in blood? Blood is iron, which is ferrous. And oxides means some of them have red, which is the hematite, which is the O3 oxygen, and some of them is black, which is the magnetite, which is the O2 oxygen. They don't even know this. It's absolutely incredible, the incompetence at Yale. Absolutely incredible. So again, they wouldn't see this either. Absolutely refused. And they ended up, I think, this was found by Arlie Caudle, and Jim Burchell and I worked with this. And we did exactly what they asked to do at Yale. And they said they were going to, I think they paid $1,500, something like that, to have this thing CAT scanned. And then they wouldn't even refuse. They never would answer a single phone call or email. I had a question about the CAT scan. Now, if they charged that kind of money and did that kind of, it was a terrible CAT scan too, absolutely horrendous. I went to Jesse Garant and Associates, and they did 7 CAT scans for me, and they were so impressed with the stuff, they did it for free, no charge. And these things are expensive, they're not cheap, and it's a job to do them, and they did fabulous work. However, to be perfectly honest with you, the CAT scans are not as reflective of the biology as you would think. And the reason is because of nucleophilic substitution and invasion. Now, if you know how to look, you can see the neck right there. But it's basically been invaded with other minerals and transition metals that were in this watery flood. This was a hot water flood too. Velikovsky said we were almost impacted by Venus, and Venus caused literally the waters to boil. This was 3,500 years ago. It's recorded everywhere in history. The academics forced his book off the bookshelves when it was on the #1 of the top seller books for 11 weeks in a row. They were so upset because he was destroying them that they forced the publisher to take it off the bookshelves. That's book burning. This is the people that we have to rely on. And they are just using, they are absolutely using your kids as merchandise. They're using them and sucking the money out of them with no concern for those kids whatsoever that I can determine. None. Zero. They are in 100% control. They are their masters, and the kids now are their slaves. And the kids will be slaves forever because they're indebted, indentured servants now. Okay, I would love to talk to these kids that are doing this lawsuit because I have so much to add. It's really disgraceful, absolute disgrace. And they are just destroying truth only for their own self-interest. It's their only possibility. If they refuse to examine, that means they know that they will be put into a position where they will become literal just a laughing stock. Right now, they are just frauds and liars, and they incompetent as anybody could possibly be. I can't imagine them just dismissing this out of hand and going in and saying, we are the professors, we teach because we have done the research. That's just not true. It's just fraud and more lies.